Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
But in the past, there were cases where I was asked to speak Japanese lines, but they weren't actually translated by a legitimate Japanese-speaking person. So,
Hi, this is Bill Lobley, and you're listening to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
The podcast that was launched in 2020 along with other plagues against the whole of humanity. All right, so our guest today is a voice actor who's had some pretty significant and recognizable roles from shows and video games that you have most likely watched or played. Like Arcane, Ice Age 4, Celebrity Deathmatch, Grand Theft Auto, a couple different incantations of that game, Fallout 76, BioShock, Star Wars The Old Republic, and many more. I could keep going, but we'll just say and many more. So we are very happy and proud to welcome Bill Lobley to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Welcome to the show, Bill.
I am thrilled to be here. Finally.
He says that now.
Yeah, it's like
We haven't even started asking questions yet, and he's all excited. I love this.
it's like, by the way, when you meet Torquemada for the first time, he's just a very affable guy. And then when it's over. So
Nice.
but anyway, really good to see you guys.
Yeah, excellent. We're glad to have you on today. So, Bill, as has become customary on our show, because we're nerds who love a good origin story, we'd like to find out about our guests and what their origin story is, what got them started. So, in the story of Bill Lobley, what influenced your interest and career in the arts? Where did you begin with all of this?
Well, they say when I came out of the womb, the doctor slapped me and I did a soliloquy. So people say, when did you know? And it's like, I really never didn't know. Is that too many negatives in that one? But it really was just something that I always wanted to do. And, you know, you get called up in first grade to read something off the blackboard and you do something silly. And, you know, there's your first injection. Do you know what I mean? So it's always been that. And then, of course, you know, and the great thing about school, which I think they still do, masks or not, they're always doing plays and they're always doing opportunities for kids to do something that puts them on a stage so parents can bring either their Instamatic or their iPad and get a picture of them. So, of course, I did all those in school. People like to get, you know, their kids on stage in schools and stuff. And I started doing that, of course, doing all the shows. And then it came time for my parents to say, so let's talk about college. And I was so excited to say all the acting schools I had looked at, like, you know, Emerson and, you know, you picked it, NYU, all the good acting schools. And the first thing they said was, all right, so listen, let's talk about careers. I don't hear anything about that acting crap. So it's like I had a re-up. I came back and decided, I told my dad that I would tell him that I'd be going into film production. And I figured, like, well, he'll buy that. And he totally did. So that's great. Good idea. So anyway, so I basically just ran around Fordham University doing anything that had to do with acting. And if we're doing a film course, I was the actor in the film. I did get a film degree, so I wouldn't, you know, change it if I could. And then after I got out, I just started making the rounds as an actor in New York City. You know, 8x10 headshots, banging on doors, putting 8x10s into mail slots that you really you're not supposed to do that, but I did. You know, you have to be bold. And then finally, I was looking at one of the trade papers. Backstage is the one. I think it's still there. I don't know if it's still there anymore. And it said it was an ad for something. It said wanted talented, humorous young men. So I figured 2 out of 3. And it wound up being this really wild thing that was basically an audiovisual puppet. So on the screen, it looked like a cartoon character. It developed probably in the 60s and 70s. And this was 1900. And I started doing this puppet, but on the screen, it looked like a cartoon character. So I was telling my friends I was voicing cartoon characters, you know, and they loved that. But really, I'm doing puppets, and then started doing the hand puppets. See, I'm still good at it. See, watch. Bill Lobley is a fine actor. So I started doing that, and then really toured the country. And then having no money in my pocket, I went from that to be like, wow, they'll put me up at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs for doing a puppet. And then I kind of got out of that. And then my wife said, girlfriend at the time, she said, have you ever thought about like improv classes and I started working with the Groundlings / Gotham City Improv, doing character work. Then that kind of melded when I went looking for an agent. And then after that, went through one good agent who was more for like marquee people. So basically they just took phone calls. They didn't get you out on auditions.
Oh yeah.
And then I, sadly left them because they were wonderful that came to my wedding. And then I started doing commercials, characters, working, then the occasional video game. And then they kind of balanced out. And then on camera stuff too. So yeah, so it was just kind of a steady flow more than, this overnight thing that, some people lie about. But yeah, and then just started doing a lot of characters for video games, still doing the puppets. And then, animation started to happen more. But I don't know if you guys know this, but it for a while, every agent would tell you, you have to be in LA to do cartoons. You have to go. And if you go, and even if you're bi-coastal, you have to lie and say that you are a resident. So it was really, really weird. So I didn't do it for as much, from when I wanted to start doing it. So, but yeah, connections and technology. And suddenly it's like, okay, it's a real thing now. So that's
Nice.
it. That's, was that too much? I don't know.
No, that was
No,
perfect.
perfect. We've said this many times in the show. Long answers are good answers.
Mhm.
Sometimes.
You've walked into a gold mine.
Awesome.
Less time for us to make fools of ourselves.
Yes. My therapist is like, Bill, our time is up. I said, but I just said good morning. A really long good morning.
I understand that. I feel that.
Looking at your IMDb, and you had mentioned that you have done both on screen and voiceover, but there's a lot more voiceover than there is on screen.
Yeah, well, I'm a liar. No, the on screen stuff would be mostly commercials. That's what people would. If I were to get recognized, at least at that point, it would be for a commercial I was in.
Okay.
Do you prefer doing voiceover?
Well, I was just talking to somebody about this, and that's here's the thing. I think any actor wants to be seen, really. The other side of that is JB Blank from Arcane always says, Bill, voice acting is acting. So he's like, and so I think you always get there, but I guess the point is, no one's going to look at me and cast me as a 90-year-old Chicago guy, and no one's going to look at me and cast me as a 6'5" cowboy. However, when we close the thing off, it's like, hey, how you doing there? Or like, well, hey, I want some grub. So it's that has really opened it up, because that is a kind of an at least a perception defining thing. So do I prefer it? You're damn right I prefer it, because I get to do more stuff. However, you stick a camera in front of me and it's it's like Katie by the door, as they say, or Katie bar the door. What's the expression?
Okay. I understand though the draw of the camera, the feel of the spotlight. It is nice to be watched and looked at and have somebody enjoy the actual physical performance behind something. But
yeah, they say the roar of the grease paint, the smell of the crowd. But I did a lot of stage stuff. I mean, I like I said, I work with an improv company, which really, if anybody's interested, go with, I guess you go to Second City in Chicago, you go to Groundlings in LA, you go to Upright Citizens Brigade, or the company I was with was Gotham City Improv, which is an offshoot of Groundlings. That was such stunningly good character development work. And that included writing. So I was already writing for this cartoon character. So that became part of it. But that was a show every week, doing improv every week, writing sketches. Some of them were like the cold opening on Saturday Night Live. We would say our show's like Saturday Night Live, only funny. That was our thing. But so there was just a huge part of what my coming up and training was in character work and improvisation. And that, they'll tell you it doesn't. They'll tell you it's always scripted, but a lot of times in many video games and cartoons, there's always a little bit of room to add something. And so that's been a great thing. And I wouldn't trade that any more than I would, trade the fact that I know, how to point the light and hopefully set up a microphone, because of my sterling career in film production. I think I did something on the movie Splash as a PA, and I walked off. Supposed to do a night shoot, and I just left. I was tired.
So what advice would you like to give to a younger you?
In an instant, I would say get started sooner. And this is me saying in the womb, I was ready. But listen, but that's a double-edged sword because of the way I started off with things and, studying film and television along with, theater stuff. That's one thing. But I also hooked up with a great bunch of guys that I'm still friends with. All my film major friends. One guy's now a cameraman. One guy's now a producer. One guy's, a sports guy. If that would be the advice career-wise, that'd be it. But then again, then you wonder, what if none of that other stuff happened? How does that inform you as an actor? If you have like a really solid friend and family life, that goes to mental health right there. So yeah, I mean, what the advice would be, I don't know. Anybody would look back on something. If only I had been more aggressive. It's like, asking that girl out that you didn't ask out. If only I asked her out.
Sure.
So I would say there's definitely like regrets and like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And then I look at some of the things that occurred because I didn't do it. And I'm like, not so bad. Really not so bad.
Right. Yeah, definitely double edged. I get what you're saying there for sure. Okay. So Bill, as our resident Star Wars fanboy on the set, I'm always excited to talk to someone who has had a part of the Star Wars universe in some way, shape, or form, whether it's in print, they wrote a book, or they were on the screen, whether the big screen, the television screen, or they were in a video game I may have played. You, of course, were in Star Wars: The Old Republic. You played Administrator Croas, Master.
Was there a Jeth in there? I want to say Jeth. Is there a?
Yeah, Master Arca Jeth and Senator Bart. You played all three roles. So, and it's a pretty massive online game. So my question is, and this is my standard question for anybody who's been in the Star Wars universe, were you a fan of Star Wars heading into the project? And if so, what does it mean to you to be involved with Star Wars?
Well, I'll take the second part first. I feel like a politician. I'll answer the second part first.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I can't remember the first part.
And if you weren't a Star Wars fan, it's okay. I'll recover in time.
That's all right. No. First of all, how can you not be? But we'll get to that in a second. Being part of something like that is great, but I feel like I'm such a small part of it. But there's such, this cachet. It's like, it's Star Wars. I mean, that is Star Wars: The Old Republic is one of the games that is mentioned most frequently to me. You Star Wars: The Old Republic? And it's like, I wasn't Luke Skywalker. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't any of those guys, or that wasn't Boba Fett, right? I was thinking Boba Fett, the guy that like shines his helmet. Well, I'm trying to keep this clean, but so it's like when people say it, they just completely just react. And it was long enough ago that I kind of remember the sessions. I just remember they were all different. Of course, we're going back to how great it is when you can do two different things. It's like they show you the picture, and this guy has one of those enormous brains. You know what I mean? It's a cookbook. And then another guy's just like, it's an old professor in the laboratory. Whatever you do, don't drink that. And then a guy drinks it. So there's that. So it feels great to be part of it. But am I a fan? How can you not be a fan? It is brought back. I mean, it was before Indiana Jones, I think, the first one. So it's brought back that whole B movie thing, and it's brought back good versus evil. And I would like to think that George Lucas knew that he was going to have this. You probably know better than me as a Star Wars fan. Like what's 3 trilogies? An analogy.
Sure, we'll call it that. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. But, I was thinking like, someone asked me recently, what's your favorite? And I said, A New Hope. It's like number 4. That has everything. It's the hub. It's the hub of the wheel. Now you can go technologically. It's like me, the film guy, and watching them, run an X-wing down a a length of fishing line and it really explodes, and they do it in super slow motion, and they can do that now. Some guy can do it in his basement on a computer,
Right.
but so much groundbreaking stuff in that, and the storyline
yeah.
is solid. And if you put them all in front of me and said which would you watch, I would probably pick that one, because it is just like I said, it's seminal. So yeah, thrilled for anyone says like, oh my God, you were in Star Wars. And I feel the same way about Star Trek. I've done some stuff for them too, but the Star Wars thing, that universe is it's iconic. So it's really one of my favorite like touchstones for like what good science fiction is.
That's awesome. The cool thing about universes like Star Trek and Star Wars is that, and yes, I smacked my microphone. I know, I did it again.
I do that all
anyway.
the time.
I do. Yeah. The
He
funny
does
thing
at
is,
least once an episode.
the bad thing is I moved it from this side of the desk, thinking if I put it over here, I wouldn't hit it as often because it was in the way of my mouse. Anyway.
Well, look, I'm Italian, so my hands are moving all the time.
I'm Irish. I talk with my hands. So yeah,
I was doing something today for Nickelodeon, and I realized that I was just they had the Zoom on me because it was the session was through LA, and I just realized, wow, if you don't see yourself, how much you're moving. So listen, it's a good thing. It's like they say to a theater actor, if you're sitting in the front row and someone complains that that you're spitting, most theater professors will say, if you're not spitting, you ain't doing it right. So
there you go.
I would think if you're in any kind of voiceover stuff, if you're not, if you're tied up in a straitjacket, it's definitely not the same. So no, don't feel bad.
Oh no,
I'm just mocking him about it.
How much spit are we talking here? Like
Hamilton, like
or-
Hamilton levels of
wear a
spit.
poncho. I wouldn't like bring a poncho to the theater.
I don't think he's talking like Gallagher, getting soaked in the front row,
smashing melons in the front row. To be or not to be.
And yeah. But anyway,
it's a fair amount. Put it this way, like a drizzle. Think of a drizzle, in London.
and all of a sudden in my mind, all I can see is Sylvester the cat from Looney Tunes suffering fucking So anyway, what I was getting to before I took us down that lovely rabbit hole of distraction, was that I think that anytime that you have a role in the universes of Star Trek or Star Wars or something along those lines, where it's such a recognizable universe, whether you have a small credit or you have a large credit, it's something that people are excited to hear about and they want to know, about it and everything else. So, okay, hey, what was your experience? And, how do you feel about it? And, were you a fan and all those other things? And I think that's really cool because, there are a lot of supporting roles outside of the Luke Skywalkers and the Kylo Rens and the Rey Skywalkers and all that kind of stuff,
The ice cream maker guy. Even everybody loves the ice cream maker guy, even.
Yeah. What about the guy in I think it's 7? The guy who sells the parts.
Yeah.
He's like, the shystery kind of dealer.
Mhm.
It's kind of like So it's like these things have been, and of course, Jar Jar Binks, but I know we shouldn't talk about him at all.
But we love him.
But that's a really interesting thing, because if none of the things you said weren't true about just so many ancillary characters, I wouldn't have done Star Wars: The Old Republic.
There you go.
Although I did talk to one actor and I said, yeah, it's Star Wars: The Old Republic. He says, who'd you do? I said, well, I did Croyus and I did this guy and I did the guy in the lab, whatever. I said, who'd you do? And he says, Luke Skywalker. So I'm like, okay, fine.
Show off. Fine,
Yeah,
be that way.
Okay. Then, sometimes, by the way, here's a tip. Sometimes actors will ask you a question like that so they can give you their answer. So they look better. So beware.
There you go. All right.
But yeah, it's great to be, associated with that universe. And
Sure.
It's great. I feel like if I wear a Star Wars t-shirt, I feel like I have something to talk about.
Right.
Absolutely.
My biggest role was a spoon in a high school production of Beauty and the Beast. So any character in Star Wars is cooler than that.
Don't believe me? Ask the dishes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was a dancing spoon.
There you go. It's a great number. It's a showstopper.
It was a lot of fun. There was a giant kick line involved.
I watched Beauty and the Beast once. Does that count? While eating pudding with a spoon.
Oh,
Look at me go. I'm
it's like
supporting
you
the
were
arts.
right in the show.
I'm supporting
really
the
think-
arts.
You could be the, you know, the Lansing chapter president for the Beauty. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Out of pudding.
Yes. What's wrong with that?
So another universe that you got to be a part of that I was actually kind of excited to talk to you about is BioShock. It is an interesting series of games. It is
But yeah.
interesting is the only word I can come up with at this point in time. I am currently playing through BioShock Infinite. So I hear your voice a lot right now.
Yeah, yeah, but that's you know, there are certain things that I look at now, like BioShock Infinite. And first of all, I think people's like, well, you know, Jeremiah Fink was such an evil guy. It's like, yeah, and you know, he's not kind and dare I say racist, and but definitely like, you know, he's got his, you know, he's putting himself in a certain direction. I'm not saying whether there's gonna be a pitchfork at the end of it, and eternal flames, but yeah, it's an interesting universe. But I always submit that, you know, to have good, you got to have evil. So that whenever I play you know, the heavy, and he doesn't start off as the heavy, he's a big glad handling guy.
Right.
But that world, that world of Columbia, is unbelievable. And I actually went to the premiere. Well, the premiere was the launch of the game, and it was at some great castle-ish hotel in Boston. It was some Marriott that they was transformed from like an old building that was like a castle. So it was a great setting for it. But I got to meet these guys that created that world. And, you know, if you, again, it's like Star Wars. If you think it's just like a couple of people, it's like George Lucas, you know, it just the worlds they create, it's unbelievable. And that particular one, it's gorgeous. And it really is like it's otherworldly, which is it's supposed to be.
It is.
And the story is wild too.
Yeah. Like, so I had started playing BioShock Infinite probably would have been 4 years ago at this point, because I was pregnant and then I had a newborn and I'm like, I don't have time to play video games. But now that I have a 3.5-year-old, I'm like, I've got a little more time on my hands. So I started replaying Infinite. I've actually never finished the storyline. I do know the story because internet and spoilers and walkthroughs and whatnot. But Jeremiah Fink is a weird character. Not that Booker DeWitt's any better, really. But you had so many different time periods and all of these things mashed into that conglomeration of Columbia. So how do you come up with that voice for Jeremiah Fink when you have the different aspects that they've brought into the game?
Well, see, I think sometimes either if there's no NDA involved, they'll give you a little touchstone, you know. It's hard to say whether I like it or not when they say, oh, he's like Ray Walston in My Favorite Martian. It's like, oh, and then you look up, it's like, oh, I see what they're going for. So, you know, archetypes are one thing. But with that, I think I had a sense that it was like that period, you know, that kind of, boy, you know, you want to say Industrial Revolution, you know, that kind of feel. Or the 20s, or you hear some of the music and listen to this cue. It's Goodnight Irene. And it's like, okay, so now we're like, are we away? 1890s? What are we talking about?
Right. And
so
like,
you get a sense of it. And then you get a sense of where he is in that world. You know, is he a minion like Stanley Poole in BioShock 2? He's just a reporter, you know, and clawing his way up. But Jeremiah Fink had gotten there and now has begun to abuse power. So, you know, he's something of a bigger guy, and he's got a little bit of a feel of a man who can stand on stage and have the evil girl stoned, you know. So, but he's also then he's dark, you know, just really, really dark in the confines of his little, you know, his little hovel, or it's more palatial, you know, and he's plotting and he's scheming, and you hear what he's all about, a lot of backroom deals. So all that stuff builds it. I wish I could say they hand you enough of a script to get all that, but once you get the role and you start to see what you have to say, and you can start to ask questions. It really goes from there. But yeah, sometimes you just be like, or you see a picture that can help too. this is an action picture guy with a big handlebar mustache and a top hat, and he's
Right.
an industrialist. It's like, okay, I think I know who he might be.
You
So
kind of want
yeah.
your snake oil salesman sort of vibe to him, but it is also that, like you said, you have the Industrial Revolution, you have the Patriots, you have the World's Fair and the jazz music, and it's like, how do you combine all of those into this one floating world? And
Yeah, it is wild. It is totally wild, and it's it's like, I don't know if you guys saw Nightmare Alley,
mm-mm.
but it basically takes place around the carnival atmosphere, and that's kind of what that feeling is. But in any carnival, it's great, and there's lights, and there's you swing the hammer and get a stuffed animal for your best girl and all that stuff, and cotton candy, and it's all you bring the kids. But that the seedy underbelly of of the carny,
there are carnies involved,
and the bearded lady having a cigar. It's like Bruce Springsteen has his own Wild Billy Circus story, and if you listen to that, it paints a really interesting picture of the carnival that comes to town, and what's going on. It's not as seedy, but you see what's going on underneath. And I think a lot of BioShock Infinite has that. It's a wonderful Columbia, and it's like there's some crap going on there.
Our father, our prophet, and the Patriots, and no,
Yeah,
this place is not okay.
yeah, and then just falling in line, conformity, and do it the company way, much to your own detriment.
And then suddenly you start getting attacked by giant robots that look like George Washington.
There you go. See?
There, yeah, okay.
And if you've ever
Weird
had that
game.
happen, it is not pleasant.
It's a weird game. He's got a crank gun.
Yes.
It's like a 10-foot tall robot that looks like George Washington with a crank gun. It's not cool.
No. Well, but then you get the thing about when you're doing RPGs, it's like you got to find the weapon to defeat him. You know what I mean? That's the best thing.
Like, if you start dying, it'll pop the little hint up on the bottom of the screen with for better aim, shoot the Patriot in the back. It's like,
yes, where were you 10 minutes ago?
How am I supposed to get behind him?
Yeah, but they'd be like, there's 11-year-olds crying, so we better put that tip in.
11-year-olds, 29-year-olds.
Yeah, well, so I got that game for free because once it came out, they handed me a copy, and I gave it to my sons who were in that prime video game playing age, and the older guy just flew through it. I said, "How'd you like it? How's it going?" He goes, "I'm done. I'm playing it again." And it's like, he looked like he was halfway through it. I said, "Wait a minute. This is like 5 days ago. Did you sleep? Did you do your homework?"
Well, and they say that, like,
no and no.
I think the actual playtime of the game, just doing the straight storyline, is only like 27 hours. But still,
I don't know. It was fast, but he said, you play it again. If the game is, any game is made right, you want to play it over and over again. They don't all have as specifically linear an ending as BioShock Infinite. I'm not giving anything away because I think there's a lot of ways to get there. But some games go off, and it's either exit 21 for the sequel, or play through until everybody dies. I've made my way through it, but I cut my teeth on Nintendo, Super Nintendo, the first PlayStation. I was staying up late playing those games. The sun was coming up. My girlfriend/wife, on the way to the gym, and I'm like, I'm going to bed. Video games, yeah. And then we had kids, and then they went in the attic.
Right, and then you just don't have time for video games when you have kids.
Until
they're at the age where you can trust them to be away from where you can see them for 10 to 15 minutes at a time.
Yeah. Or then you start playing with them. We had so much fun playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with my younger guy. That was our thing. Saturday afternoon, in your pajamas and staying.
We just got a Switch and one of the Paw Patrol video games, because we can play it with my daughter, and she is starting to learn how to get the controller to work and how to do more than just take pictures and run in circles. But we're getting there.
Yeah, good for you. We need that.
It's a good fine motor skill.
Yeah, get them started early.
There you go.
It gets her to stop jumping on the furniture.
So, Bill, we all have one of those things that we are super proud of that is just really close to our hearts. What is a hidden gem that you have done or worked on that is really close to your heart?
boy, there's a lot. I did it. This might not, definitely not on IMDb because it's not in that category, but I worked on the audiobook series Geronimo Stilton. So that is basically this reporter. It's kind of sophisticated, he shouldn't be in the newspaper business, but he is. But he's very sophisticated. So I got to read, and it's his adventures. He's got crazy family, and then he winds up, making pizza in Rome, and then he goes to visit the pyramids, and there's a ghost in there. So it's kind of like Scooby-Doo, But there's but I got to do all the characters. When you're reading an audiobook, as you know, the reader does all the characters, and standard audiobooks are pretty much straight. If it's the Cockney guy that someone encounters in an alley, it's like, and then he saw Reginald, and Reginald says, "Good day, how are you doing?" Blah blah blah. If you're doing the cartoon, it's that full Cockney. Audiobooks are generally more subdued, so you don't scare the heck out of someone when they're driving down the I-90. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, I gotta. So but with Geronimo Stilton, it was a kid's audiobook. So I started doing that, and then wound up doing a ton of stuff for Scholastic, basically read-alongs for kids. And so that was just really, really fun, because you knew that it was wholesome, and it was like reaching these, little kids that are learning to read. And, you get little fan mail with the picture of, a 5-year-old drawing the, Geronimo Stilton or anybody. So it's kind of heartwarming. It's kind of nice. And then, the next week I run out, I'm doing Mafia 2, and I'm, the darkness. It's like, this would traumatize these children.
So Scholastic was like a palate cleanser.
Yeah, I guess so. But can we say it's the main course of the dessert?
Sure, absolutely.
Is it over so fast? These palate cleansers just are fleeting. But yeah, so those things, children's stuff, anytime. And then I actually went to a local library. I think it was Barnes and Noble, and I said, listen, I want to do a series for kids and it was called How to Read to Your Parents. So it was basically getting kids in the room and saying, we're going to show you how to, read with your parents, because parents are just like, all right, Little Red Riding Hood. Look, I know how this ends. It doesn't end well. It's like a lot of them die. So the wolf dies, everybody dies, cut her open. Yeah. So and that's not what I do with my kids. But yeah, so it was the idea that I could do stuff for kids. And it was great, and it's heartwarming, and it does bring you back. And then when I started reading to my kids, they liked it up to a point. At one point, I was doing the Harry Potter series, and I was just reading with them, and cursing out, I guess, Dick Dale, because he did not Dick Dale. Who's the guy that did Barnum? You guys don't know this? P.T. Barnum on Broadway, the show. It's not Dick.
Do not know.
Anyway, he was doing the series, but I was going to read it to my kids using all the voices. And at one point, my younger guy said to my wife, "Can you read tonight and not do the voices?" So I think I might have come a little too strong to them. But yeah, so kids, that's the thing that seems to get the purest, the purest reaction. Although I have to say, with Arcane, I'm really surprised just how the fans are very warm and very involved, and they don't miss a trick. And that's a more recent thing that I'm like, wow, am I proud to be part of that.
There you go. Well, since you brought up Arcane, let's talk about Arcane. So my daughter is actually a huge fan of the show, and she got me interested in the show as well. And for a guy that never played League of Legends, has no idea of the backstory of anything coming into this or anything involved with this, or whatever, I have to tell you, from what I have watched in the series, and I can't wait to see more of the series, but it's one of the best animated shows in a long time. Very well told story, very well. The animation style itself is amazing, so immaculately drawn. And so I came into this blind, but I have to say I'm actually rather glad that I came into this blind.
Yeah, I mean, I did too, because I knew about League of Legends, and I knew that the game was affiliated with League of Legends. We were out with somebody for some, went to see a show, and we're having dinner, and this woman's daughter was there, and I knew that Arcane was based on League of Legends. And the woman asked me, "So, Bill, what have you been doing? Any cool project?" I said, "Yeah, I'm doing one that's based on a video game. Can't talk about it." And the daughter says, "Is it League of Legends?" because because they're rabid. The fans are
Right.
rabid, and it is huge. And people kept saying, "Do you know what you're involved in?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They said, "No, no, no. I don't think you have any idea." And then so basically, we're looking at a situation where it's like, I'm going to tell you the funniest joke in the world, and wait till you hear how funny this joke is. You're not going to be able to stop laughing. And then you tell the joke, and they're like, "That wasn't that good." It was so like, am I being set up? It's like, well, I shouldn't have said it was funny. Here's a stupid joke, and you tell them it's really funny.
Right.
But and then as we progressed and the pandemic happened, and it was basically put off. The release was put off for a solid year. It's supposed to
Yeah.
be October 20. And it's like the French guys ain't doing it. The French guys are not animating. No, no, no. So and then it came out, and I'm thinking like, boy, I really hope it's good. And then I saw it, and I couldn't believe how good that animation is. And
Oh,
then that's one thing when you see, and we didn't do a lot of facial capture for that. They had, but there was a camera there, so I think the actors they hired were good enough that there was a lot of character stuff that they could draw from literally. But then the story, I was
Yeah.
I couldn't stand watching it. And then the theme song. It's my wife said, on Netflix, it's like, can you fast forward through the credits? I'm like, I said no, and she said, why? I said the song, the
Yeah.
song.
It's so good. Such a perfect
but the
tie
whole
into all
thing
those
is,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it really was an experience. And look, my part in it was not gigantic. I cannot tell you if I'll be back for the second season or not. Um,
Understood.
but and by the way, there's no shortage of resources for this thing because of the League of Legends franchise and Riot Games and stuff.
Right.
So and the people I got to meet when I went to like the third the premiere of the last 3 episodes, they did this big event in Los Angeles, and I went out for it and really got to meet for the first time the people that I worked with. And man, they're nice. What a great community
Nice.
they have in LA. They're just really nice. Sally from
Yeah.
Safiati.
Sally said, yeah.
Yeah, I just did a Streamily live signing thing. They do that now because of the pandemic, and she popped on at the end. But again, her and her son Max, I got to meet him. So now we're
Yeah.
back to kids. So yeah, that was a really great one, and
Yeah. I thought that one of the things that the show did really well was it used a lot of the things that were going on in the show for metaphors as other things. Like so talking about your character Huck, you look at what happened with him. Now here's a guy who was a very shrewd businessman, all these different things. And it was, I thought his story arc, what happened between the 2 episodes that he's in, showed was going on with the Undercity in Piltover. And then also even if you look at it with what happens between Huck and Vi, it's almost, it can be used as a good metaphor for what happens with addiction in real life with people.
that's
What's going
exactly
on.
what it is. Or maybe not even addiction. I mean, because I think if you took the actual, propellant out of it, I think it's really about, what people will do to basically be noticed.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and how hard that is when you spend, what you feel is your whole life just clawing through and not being able to do
Mhm.
anything. And that great line, I just, wanted someone to be afraid of me, you know?
Yeah.
And it said so much. And like I said, it was only 2 episodes at that point. It had started off, there were extras, but that's one reason, because of the narrative. I'm like, if you have to cut something, cut it, Please don't tell anybody I said that though. But yeah,
We heard
that
nothing.
whole that whole idea of, what a horrible state he got himself into. Yet he finds this incredible moment of redemption. I wish
Yeah.
people would talk about that more because it moved me. But that's kind of a theme that goes through the show. What happens when life deals you a certain hand, uh, and you do your best, and maybe you think you're doing your best, and you realize like, oh no,
Yeah.
you're evil, or I'm seeking revenge, and I shouldn't be seeking revenge. And of course, Silko's great line, "Don't cry, you're perfect." It's like,
Right.
You know, love can happen there too. You know what I mean? It's not just because he's a bad person, he can't. The goodness isn't still in him. So it's all there, and there's so much more to come. So,
and I love the fact that one of the reoccurring themes in the show is the lengths that people will go to get the things that they feel they absolutely have to have. What you see Powder doing to throughout the show, trying to get her own redemption and follow and find out who she is, what she is, why she is, all these different things, and have a reconnection. And then Vi as well, and then again your character Huck, what he goes through so that people will notice him, why is that so important to him, and the lengths that he's willing to go through that. And it's kind of a neat storyline to see, because sometimes when that storyline gets played out, it's just like, oh yeah, well I did a bad thing, but there's the one of the things I loved of what they did in Arcane is it wasn't just small little truncated sections. They took it and then they exploded it out nicely, so you could really see the character's development.
It's these writers, and I met some of them when I was in LA, and you look at them, they're just like, it's a typical video game thing. It's like he just looks like a guy, a kind of nice, unassuming guy, and you realize what's what is boiling deep within them, as writers, and it's like, what if this happens? But that theme of where you're going to wind up, what you're doing, mistakes you've made, what you think you want is one thing, and then realizing maybe that's not what I want. Or the lengths you'll go, like, Victor, it's like he's just basically takes the shimmer for probably a similar reason as Huck, and then, the why of it all, or just the misunderstanding, like, no, she didn't really leave you. You're mistaken. Give her a chance. And then something happens and that chance is blown. It's like the girl you didn't ask to the prom again. It's like, what? A recurring theme with me, by the way. But, it's just like, that's gone. That moment is gone forever. And this must have been the reason. And then it's like, if you had just taken the time to ask, maybe you would have discovered that there was room for healing here, as opposed to like, well, I'm really going to go bat crazy.
Right.
It's like, I'm angry. It's like, well, you didn't give me a chance to explain. So, but yeah, so when there's that much in a cartoon, you are, they really broke ground, and I think they won a fair share of awards so far. Not enough to suit me.
Yeah, I think I counted 12 so far.
Yeah,
they've won 12. Should have been more.
It's great, and getting 10 ratings on the most deeply involved gaming or animation sites. They're giving it 10s. It's like everyone was talking about that when we were out there. It's like, we got a 10. We got a 10.
So cool.
Yeah. Well, it's deserved.
I feel like Arcane too has opened pathways for other shows, for other either video game based shows, or even like the Critical Role team has come out with Vox Machina with their cartoon. That it's opened these pathways for more stories like that, and for cartoons to not necessarily be for kids. Like,
well, be taken like really, really seriously, and it's like Halo. That's like another Netflix show, and but that I believe is live action.
Yeah, it is.
There's something else I did that I called my agent. I said, hey, they announced that they're going to be doing this. I can't think what the game-based show. And I was all excited because whatever the show it was, I had a part in it. I'm like, I could do this. I could do this, in the actual animated show. And she said, Bill, it's live action. So now we're back to like the 6'5" cowboy. You know what I mean? You're not gonna put a breastplate and a helmet on me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, he still doesn't look 6'5". I could beat the crap out of that guy.
Put me next to really short people. I'll look fine.
Exactly.
Give me some stilts. I'll rock this.
I mean, with Lord of the Rings, they made people look different heights. So
right, they made the tallest character be the dwarf, or the tallest actor be the dwarf.
Yes, but that's all right. That's that he identifies as a tall person, or the opposite. I don't know. The guy. Sometimes I identify as a billionaire who can go into space. That doesn't put me on the rocket.
Sometimes I just identify as a human burrito and I stay wrapped up in my covers.
That's
because life is easier that way. So, Bill, while doing research for today and getting familiar with the stuff that you've done, I stumbled upon your YouTube channel.
Oh no.
Oh yes. I laughed so hard at the airplane food.
Oh yes, yes, the airplane meal.
The airplane meal one got me. Like I was done, but the checking for doneness and you bounce the piece of chicken and the boing sound, like
Yes, yeah, you got to have the sound effect for that one.
it killed me.
Yeah, news meal. It's a funny thing because now we're back to like the filmmaking and on camera thing,
Mhm.
and we started doing that because we had ideas for food shows. This is, you know, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, whatever it was, and we started pitching food shows, and we had a lot of different ones. One was the OCD chef, obsessive compulsive dinners was another, where I get really involved with like doing, and you would do like a dinner party. So if it was the bowling dinner, you would get, you know, bowling alley fries, you know, and spare ribs, you know, and
Love
we do the table. The table was like you know, you put like contact paper down, make it look like a bowling alley, and the gutters have the appetizers in it, and the pins have drinks in them, you know. So it was like a full blown how to do a, you know, an off the wall dinner party. They didn't like it, but but the point is, I started doing more and more cooking because I like to cook anyway. And then I started, you know, pitching that show where I'm, you know, doing news-based things, current event things, you know. And they said, "Well, are you a chef?" And I said, "No." "Oh, well, you're not an expert." That was the thing. You got to be an expert. So I heard that enough times when I said to the producer, I said, "You know, I'm gonna get a degree." So I did. I got like, you know, my what I call my correspondence school chef, gourmet chef certificate. And then like a year after that, he called me and goes, "Hey, Bill, listen, we want to talk to Food Network again." He goes, "But you know, it's interesting. Do you know what they're looking for now?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Non-chefs." So I've met, you know,
But of course,
it's like we're looking for veterans. It's like, well, I'll enlist for 4 years, you know, and I got shrapnel in my hip, you know, and it's like, you know what they want now, non-veterans. It's like, what about the shrapnel? So yeah, so we've been doing that. We're taking a little bit of break right now, but people keep saying, "Bill, what about," I did Oscar dinners for a while. And they said that, but people would come over for those. But yeah, it was really fun. And I constantly, especially during the pandemic, I did like how to cook stuff and keep your spouse happy during the pandemic and all that stuff. But yeah, it's been really fun, but it's a great thing. But that it goes back to my filmmaking. And I said to my younger son, who was actually a theater major, heaven help us. He, you know, I said, "Look, he's a film minor." So I was a you know, theater major with a film major. He's a theater major with a film minor. And you know, I said, "It's content creation now." So that's like one of the things I do to keep, you know, my fingers in as many things as I can, but not your blueberry pie. So there you go.
there you go.
But thank you for noticing and watching.
Yes, it was fantastic.
It cracked me up. So and isn't that what it's about?
Well, yes, but I
why I
love
make TikToks.
or TikToks. Yeah, that's my agent said.
I love that aspect of humor, that sense of humor. Like that is right up my alley of the just bizarre, but bizarre enough that it works. Like it's that fine line teetering of this isn't completely insane, but it's functional, and that's where I am on a daily basis.
Yeah, so especially as you know, as a mom who cooks, you know, you got to put food on the table.
Yes.
But yeah, a lot of times we'll make stuff and it's like, "Oh, we did the lobster dinner." It's like, "Oh, I guess we'll have to have lobster tonight." And it's like, "Yeah, but we got tuition. We have tuition before that lobsters are bought, you know, then they don't keep." So but yeah, so that's something that you know, I just I love doing it, and I love shooting stuff, and I've got a lot of equipment. So, and during the pandemic, I built a slot car track, and I did food videos, and then as much, you know, stuff in the studio as I could, which thankfully, if people have mentioned this, if they haven't mentioned it, I'd be surprised. But, you know, if you have a home studio in the pandemic, that was a really good thing to have already set up, because you could do stuff from home. And there was a period where, you know, this is where I'm working, you know. But I was in the city today doing something. So we're coming back, fingers crossed. And it's great because the studio guys, they got to make money. They want people in their studio.
So we have a Facebook group that has about 202,000 members,
Yep.
Good heavens.
and
Good for
it
you.
is it is just filled with memes. It is this mixed with this, memes galore. And so, what characters or what two characters of yours would you like to see become nemesis of each other?
Nemesis. I don't know. I would like, first of all, one of my favorites is Sparks from C Lab, and I think he could be anybody's nemesis, because I really think that, you know, some of what drives Sparks is just like, you know, getting people's Irish up. You know what I mean? So, you know, I just, so I think you could put it with anybody. Went with Geronimo Stilton. You know what I mean? Or you know, with maybe Jeremiah Fink could be better, because he would really piss him off. So he would be like the guy that I would look to in that kind of realm of, boy, you know, sticking him in there with somebody would be interesting to me. And you could pick, you know, the nicer the better, or the more evil the better. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, I really haven't thought about it, but sometimes you'll see memes with Sparks in them, or I'll make them myself. That's the more.
No, I said that's most of the fun is making the memes.
Oh, definitely. Get the little meme generator,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
and then you zoom in on it so you don't get the watermark. So you're basically, oh, have I said too much?
We heard
I
nothing.
I think you paid for
nothing.
it.
No.
But yeah, that's really good. It's all about the font, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
can't do,
absolutely.
like, you know, can't do Comic Sans on the meme. It has to be that certain, like, white font.
There you go.
Unless your meme is about Comic Sans, and then using Comic Sans just makes it better.
Exactly.
Just, well, yeah, but that's
you know,
expected. That's what I mean.
But you know, some of them just don't miss, like that goofy, you know, the goofy nerdy kid just saying anything. Yeah, well, my sons will just sit there and basically hang upside down on the couch, looking and laughing. I'm like, "What are you watching?" They'd be like, "Memes." It's like
Exactly.
they're across the room and they're sending memes to each other. It's like, guys, sit next to each other. You're brothers, you know, but they're across the room. Like, it's a really funny one. So
Yeah, I do that to my wife from across the house. I understand.
I do that to my husband from the other side of the couch. So.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
understandable.
I'll text my wife from the studio, like chill the glasses, you know, coming up in 20 minutes. You know, it's like, could you have shouted up the stairs? You know, it's not that big a house. I live in New Jersey, but, you know, we're New Yorkers. And when I moved to New Jersey, and people, especially, you know, actors, they'd be like, so I hear you're going out to New Jersey. And I'm like, yeah. And they say, wow, dude, I don't know. And so they think I live in South Fork. Do you know what I mean? They think I have the mansion, you know?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, guys, you know, it's suburban New Jersey. It's a nice place. It's a great town. It's got a fire whistle. But it is funny, that perception. But, you know, our house is wonderful. But you know, there aren't servants running around with, you know, with my food servings and portion control, or cigars and brandy. That's more my speed.
That was what your
Excellent.
teenagers were for.
Well,
Hey, there you go.
Well, Bill, we've gotten to a point of, and I'm glad you brought up memes, because we've gotten to a point of the show where we'd like to run our guests through a little bit of a quiz. Now, yeah, this is a 4-question quiz, and the quiz is all multiple choice, so it's not. So hopefully, it won't be that difficult for you. But the name of this quiz is "Name That Bill." So we're going to talk.
Okay.
We're going to give you famous bills over the years, and you have to tell us what they're famous for.
Oh my goodness. Okay, this is really fun.
All right, cool. So out of the 4 questions, if you get 3 out of the 4 correct, we'd like to send you this book, which is called Custodians of the Cosmos, which is written by Drayton Allen. He's the original founder of the funny science fiction group that we have 200,000 members of. And it's all about a young man who wanted to join something quite like Starfleet, but for litigious reasons, not Starfleet. But anyway, he washed out, rejoined, and now he boldly cleans up after those who boldly just went. So
It's pretty funny.
and if you get less than 3, we take a picture of you, we make a meme out of you, and we put you into our group. We call it our fun sequence.
Oh my, that's a feature and benefit, though, right?
Well, I like to think so. And
Yeah,
it's got a
that's great.
pretty, yeah, you got a
No,
pretty,
it's a great motivator.
there you go. All
And
right,
it still
so
benefits us even if you do fail.
there you
All right.
go.
All right.
All right, so
here
we got
go.
four questions, and so what they'll do is they'll give you the name or what the person does, and then 3 last names, and you got to pick the last name that does the thing. Okay.
So it's name, occupation, and then a choice of names that go with him or her.
Correct.
Because
So
Billy
like in this one, it'd be like this as an example. This Bill does voiceover work. Is it Bill Lobley? Or is it Bill Burr? Or is it Bill Hamilton? And so it'd be Bill Lobley. Okay.
got it.
All right. Take us away, Nick.
This Bill makes computers. Is it Murray, Gates, or Clinton?
That is Gates.
Correct.
Yes.
All right. Number 2. This Bill was a president of the United States. Is that Taft, Murray, or Gates?
William Howard Taft.
There you go. All right. I almost used
That was a
Clinton for
trick
that one,
question.
but
That
yeah.
was a trick question. Nobody called him Bill. Didn't he die in a bathtub?
He did.
yes. Nobody called him Bill, but it was meant for misdirection, but you were not misdirected. I have sad face now.
Well,
Okay.
when you're as political as I am.
I think there's a movie where Bill Murray does play the president.
Probably.
Is there really? It's not
Maybe. I
Caddyshack,
feel
is
like-
it? He's the president of the golf course at Caddyshack. They're like, yeah, I'm not doing. I'm ready to go for. Yeah. So.
This Bill acted like other people. Is it Gates, O'Reilly, or Murray?
Well, Murray.
All right. So that's 3.
He
That gets
still
you-
acts like other people.
Yeah. So
And-
that gets
and
you.
there is a movie where Bill Murray plays a president.
Which one is it?
Uh,
Is that the bonus question?
Hyde Park on Hudson.
Oh my.
Never heard of it.
He played Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
All right.
Oh my God, that's right. There was a period when they were having him playing. There was another one that did like an 1890s thing, and they tried it was like Merchant Ivory, and he had like the straw hat. I'm like, what's doing to Bill Murray?
Right.
All right, on with the quiz.
All
I'm
right,
sorry.
question number 4.
Well, hold on.
Oh,
Wait.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
You're out of meme land, so we don't have to take a picture of you, make a meme out of you, but you do get the book. Custodians
I'm
of the
very
Cosmos.
excited.
And
right, this-
for funsies,
There you go.
stole your word.
I know. Okay, it's good.
Number 4. This Bill played sports. Was it Monroe, DeBlazo, or Russell?
Bill Russell.
Correct.
Very
Yeah,
good. 4 for
was he a
4.
Laker?
No,
did
he built-
commentate.
No, he played for the Celtics.
Oh, okay, there you go. See, I told you, I'm not the sports guy.
Everybody
You
in Boston's
defeated
going to
Tim's
hate you.
quiz.
Bill Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Earl Monroe was on the Knicks.
There you
Earl
go.
the Pearl.
Earl the Pearl. That's absolutely right.
Everybody in Boston can be mad about the fact that their team name is pronounced wrong as well. So
It's not they don't call it the Celtics.
no, they're the Celtics, and that's wrong.
No. But I'm not. Listen, I'm a Yankee fan, so but so how I feel about the Red Sox. But one of my close friends is a Red Sox guy, and he's a producer, so I always tell him, they're not a bad team. But
They're not a bad team. They just suck.
They're just the worst.
Go
They're not
Sox!
bad.
Go
They
Sox!
are the worst.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can listeners go to find out more about you and what you're working on?
Well, let's see. You could go. I've kind of taken a turn in terms of like how much social, promotion I do on Instagram. So you can see me on Instagram at B Lobley, or as someone say, Blobley. You can also follow me on Twitter, which is at Bill Lobley. That's 3 L's in a row, BILLLOBLEY. Or if you want, I do this thing for Streamily for like live autograph signings. If you really want, one of my characters to sign a picture, you can do that through Streamily and have live signings so that. And I just recently got on Cameo. So if you wanted me or one of my other characters to wish you a happy birthday, good luck at the new job, or maybe you just need to pick me up at the end of the day, someone's having a rough time, I can do that too. And, you can customize the message. So you hold it up in your phone. It's like, hi, Tim, how are you? Sorry they're stealing your phrases and words, but you've got more. We're sending you a dictionary, so
There you go.
there's that. So you can find me there. You could go to newsmeals.com and see some silly food videos. We haven't done one in a little while, but that's okay. And then I'm probably on BillLobley.com, although some people tell me I really need to update my website. But yeah, and then in terms of projects, as you know, with video games, sometimes they don't let you talk about them. But
Understood.
so just look and you should be able to see it. And if there's anything that's coming up that I can talk about, I will have lately been really try to be a lot more careful about, publicizing it so people get a sense. Just
Perfect.
Well, we are going to definitely link your socials and your website and News Meals because people need to watch News Meals. It's funny. It's just
God bless you.
it's too
Well, you
much fun.
guys are great. You guys are
Thank you.
so relaxed and fun, and it's also really good that there's 3 of you. So you feel like you're sitting around chatting with a bunch of friends. So it's been really fun.
Thank you. Well, that's the vibe we go for. That's what we're hoping people feel like.
It's working. Send me your
Excellent.
address and maybe I'll send you a News Meals t-shirt if you're good.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. Just want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to ensure that we get more amazing guests like Bill Lobley to come on our show and have these funny moments for you to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. Nick's going to pop up that little button right down on there. We'll find something on the screen. You'll see it and click it down below. That's the subscribe button, kids. You want to hit that one. That makes sure that we grow, we get more good guests, and you're going to go check out Bill's work on all the aforementioned sites as well. And if for whatever reason you are not happy with the content of today's show, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is Huck from Arcane. Huck was a shrewd businessman in the days before Shimmer, so don't feel the need for more than 2 copies of the complaint. We're pretty sure he can handle it, but be prepared for him to do whatever he needs to do to get more Shimmer. So if you want your evil deeds and ill wishes to come true upon the faces of the offending parties, might we suggest that you line the pockets of your complaint forms with a little Shimmer? See, we might be bad at podcasting, but we still try to be helpful with tips.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Bill.
You guys. Really fun.
All right, that's going to conclude us for Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Until next time, guys. Goodbye.
Bye.
Keep playing. Gaming is for everyone.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation to help out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 81. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt, joins Vi and Powder in a raid in Piltover, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back, and what's left of its dignity.
And speaking of sponsors and show partners, check out this short video from our good friends over at Level Up Lightsabers. Information about Level Up Lightsabers and their online training sessions can be found in the episode description below.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FunnySci-Fi, or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.